Calling this game a disappointment is an understatement. It was a disastrous ending, the way that this one played out. In the final 30 seconds, offensively, defensively, individual players coming up with some poor plays that led to the loss. And then the coaching decisions by Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator. These two guys should have been able to secure this win. Miami should have went into this after this game and just said, look, it's a game that we didn't look good, but at least we won, and you move on to North Carolina and Clemson coming up next. That is not what happened, and I think this season is really in flux. We don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way. I'll get more into the season, my thoughts on maybe things moving forward with this team and how they bounce back from here. But let's talk about that kneel down decision, 3rd and 10, and they decided to run a play. They did a run play. And simply put, he was asked if it was because Don Chaney Jr. was trying to get 100 yards. Is that why they wanted to run it? I don't know what the reason why. I think they just kind of got used to just running the ball. But they could have taken a knee there. And I know there was a little bit of confusion in terms of timeouts. Our official InStats had Georgia Tech with 1 timeout left. I know the scoreboard clock didn't show a timeout for Georgia Tech left. I think the TV broadcast also at one point showed 0 timeout. So I know there was a little bit of confusion, but I think Georgia Tech did have the timeout. Okay, so Miami runs a play. Don Chaney Jr. fumbles the ball. You've got to hold on to the ball, obviously. But 3rd and 10, there's no reason to go ahead and put him in that position. You're not going to pick up that first down. Very difficult to do when the other team is expecting run. Remember earlier in the year, Shannon Dawson got a lot of credit for being aggressive, throwing the ball late in the game, and they got a first down. That's when that Jacoby George touchdown happened. He talked about being aggressive. They could have been aggressive in that play and throwing the ball. They decided not to do that, and that's fine. But you got to kneel. Sometimes you just have to take a knee. You got to play smart. They didn't. They lost the fumble there. Coach Cristobal was explaining the decision process, and he was talking about at the 157 mark and this and that. And then he kind of threw in, and well, we thought that he could get the first down. And I think everybody in the press conference room was a little stunned that he said that, or the way he was explaining this situation. And I asked the question, the follow-up, just for clarification, if that's why they went ahead and ran it. They felt like they could get the first down. And certainly he just said, simply, we should have taken a knee. And the hard part about this game is absolutely better decisions could have been made or should have been made at the end of the game. And the really hard part is it lost you a game. And sometimes you're able to escape poor decisions. Maybe you should have done things differently, but you do go ahead and win the game. A game Miami was favored by 20 points. At home, Georgia Tech was reeling, 2-3, lost to Bowling Green in embarrassing fashion for them. They had to switch defensive coordinators. And Shannon Dawson, I don't think had a good game plan, offensive coordinator. He's the one that called the play. Mario did say he felt like he should have stepped in there. Tyler Van Dyke didn't even want to talk about it. Both times he was asked about the kneel and his thoughts on it, he said he has to play better in the 3 interceptions. So obviously Tyler is correct, but he didn't even want to address it. When players were coming out into the tunnel, I went and watched the players kind of leave the field. And Matt Lee was one of the first guys in the locker room, visibly frustrated, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I'm sure he's a guy that's been around football a lot. I'm sure he was frustrated. I'm sure that a lot of the players were. The reason why you're frustrated is you don't take a knee there, you lose the ball, and then Georgia Tech still has to go 74 yards with under 30 seconds left, and they do. 2 plays to Corey Couch, mistimes it, can't let that play happen to the 30-yard catch. And then the 44-yard touchdown play, starting with after the spike, it's 9 seconds left. So maybe they're thinking that they're not in a complete prevent defense because you don't want to give up a field goal. Whatever the case might have been at that time, it's hard to really understand what the thought process there. Cam Kitchens was not made available to the reporters, but he's the one that blew the coverage. He's the one that allowed the touchdown. He's the guy that has all the accolades. We speak highly of him. I have spoken really highly of him, but this was a poor play by Cam. It cost the team the game, and there were other reasons why Miami lost the game. There were other reasons why Miami was even in this position, but that play just can't happen, obviously, and he really goes in untouched. So Haynes King rolls out and throws a touchdown, and there we go. So poor play by the defense, and I'm busy kind of writing my thoughts on the defense and how they were mostly good. But the way that it ended there in the fourth quarter on that drive, it's very disappointing. The pass defense really let them down when they'd been so good. I think Haynes King was at 77 yards going into that. Then he has those 2 big plays, and he wins the game for him. He rolls out, throws a touchdown, and just has really nice plays on his end. And Miami's defense left really disappointed, but the offense, Tyler Van Dyke, the 3 picks, really, really hard to understand what he was doing on that. He said it was just poor execution. He felt like he didn't want to say anything that was too different or too drastic with the change at defensive coordinator. But clearly, watching Miami's offense operate all game long, it looked nothing like a team that's going against a struggling defense with what they've been. Georgia Tech's been one of the worst defenses so far this year, certainly one of the worst rushing defenses. And then Miami has done so well offensively going into this game, and Miami didn't look like anything like that. 3-0 lead at halftime, not scoring points. The interceptions, Tyler had one coming into this game, has 3 today, and 2 of them were obviously huge returns, so huge plays. So, very disappointing all the way around. And again, you would have liked to have been able to kind of learn from a poorly played game, but still got the result. You deal with it, you move on. You got North Carolina and Clemson next. Instead, I really don't know where this team goes from here, because this can certainly be leading on to more losses. And I think a lot of fans are frustrated because what kind of season is this going to be? Is this going to be back to 5-7 last year? Certainly they look good in non-conference. That's why a lot of people, that's why they got ranked. That's why I felt like they were going to be in contention to be one of those top 2 spots in the ACC. However, this was the first conference game, and Miami blew it. They blew a big opportunity to get a win against a team that's struggling, and Miami's going to have to face tougher competition. I don't know what they can do to erase this loss. I don't know if it's even going to be erased with wins over North Carolina and Clemson the next 2 weeks. That would certainly help. It will at least get Miami back in the conversation. But I think the scary part, the disappointing part with how Miami played today in their first conference game, because the competition is going to ramp up. Miami played 3 lesser opponents. They do play Texas A&M. They get the win there. But maybe as we're looking at it, maybe things are just a little too skewed from how Miami played in those games, where they clearly had the talent advantage and certainly the size advantage in a lot of spots as well. So we'll see how Miami does. But the thing that stood out to me coming into the game, I was looking forward to seeing how well they were going to play, because I thought Louisville, with the game that they had against Notre Dame, was obviously a huge statement. I think Louisville has impressed me throughout the season, and then obviously there. But watching, Florida State do what they did, kind of pull away from Virginia Tech, and North Carolina looked unstoppable. So other teams are playing really well. We talked about Duke. I think Duke's playing really well also. So there's a lot of teams at the top. And if you're trying to stay up at the top, this certainly sets you back quite a bit. Clemson does grind out a win, so they're going to be tough as well. So there are some teams, in the ACC that Miami's going to have to contend with. They're going to have to play much better, obviously. Afterwards, the players talked a lot about, we got to bounce back and get back to practice and those kind of things. Look, it's all words right now. We'll see how this team does bouncing back. We'll have to just see next week. Winning at North Carolina would certainly help a lot, as I mentioned, but they've got to continue to win. And I don't know what this really means, because then you're really looking at that in Florida State game in November. I know it's a few weeks away, but you've got to find ways to have these really big statement wins. And it had been about a month since that Texas A&M game. It had been a while. So in college football, you don't get very many opportunities to have statement wins, and they had that disappointing loss today. They'll have a chance next week with North Carolina, which will continue to rise in the polls before Miami faces them. But we'll see. Miami does not look like that they have the better team than North Carolina. It does not look like they're going to win that game. They've lost the last 4 to UNC, but we'll see. This does not look like what we saw the first 4 weeks. But again, if this is what they're going to show, are they going to be able to bounce back from this? It's a huge thing. I think it's very easy to say they'll be able to move on from it, but these kind of losses can sting for a while. It can honestly wreck your season. Hopefully that does not happen. Hopefully they get everything back together. There are some positives that we've seen in these first 4 games that we just didn't see tonight, and that's the thing that was really disappointing, in addition to that disastrous way to lose a game. So yeah, just wrapping it up, we'll see what this team is made of. We'll see how this leadership council, these veterans, these players that have played a lot of football, we'll see how they all do. They have a chance at North Carolina to help put this one behind them. But again, you can't keep having losses, can't have disappointing losses in this fashion. We'll see if it's a one-off this year. But again, there's no doubt a complete disappointment. I understand your frustration, because again, teams like this that are heavy favorites typically do not lose this game. Georgia Tech, maybe it should have been noted even more, because last year's team, Georgia Tech, actually won 2 games during the season where they were 20-point underdogs. And they were only the 3rd team since 1978 to do that last year. So maybe Georgia Tech they've got something in them to be able to pull these upsets off. Regardless, Miami should have won this game. They've got to play much better. They've got to be able to correct the end. There's no doubt about that, but they've got to play better throughout. There's a lot more things to discuss with this game. Drop in the comments below and let me know what you want to talk about. And I have more reaction, obviously on the website, on the channel. There's some things I want to get into. Big game with North Carolina. It's certainly disappointing that Miami's not holding up its end of the deal with making this really a marquee matchup for the conference and for UM. So we'll see how things go. I feel for you. I know you're frustrated, just to say the least, I'm sure. So thanks for watching. You're the diehard fans if you're watching this here at the end, so I want to thank you for that. Hopefully this is the only real disappointing loss the rest of the way, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully you have a good rest of the weekend, and take care.